Hi everyone, John here with another ARCHICAD tutorial. In this video, we're going to be walking through the steps of taking an image and actually generating a new surface texture for use within ARCHICAD. In this case, we are going to be doing a tile floor because I really don't like this brown colored floor that we're looking at here. In 2D, it looks okay, and this is really more of the coloration that I'm going for because the subject is really a saltillo tile, which has much more of kind of a golden, bright, orangish to it with some yellow tint. So this is like a very common Mexican style tile. You see it in a lot of Spanish style houses, and in particular this particular house that I'm working on right now. So sometimes you can get lucky and find a good texture to use off the Google Images or anywhere else online, but in this case I actually want to use an image that I took from the project. So let me just pull up a few pictures here and we'll just kind of walk through and talk about why some pictures are good and some pictures are bad. So this particular picture is actually not too bad. We can actually use some of these tiles that we have here over the right, but the coloration is just a little bit dull, so we can probably do better than this. This picture is definitely a little bit too washed out, but that gives you an idea of some of the different coloration. It's definitely an orange to yellow variation. This picture here, while I have it's nice and square, at least to the pattern, which is important when you take these pictures. What's wrong with this is it's way too bright on this side and way too dark on this side, and so that will not work well at all. This is another one that would probably work okay, but it's a little bit dull. That one's washed out. That one's a little washed out. It's getting better. In fact, I actually kind of like some of these here, but I think this is probably the best image that I have. It's got the best blend of color and neutrality in terms of the light hitting the actual tiles. So I think let's work with this one and see what we can get. So okay, with that, so in this case we're going to be actually using a tool that's just very simple, PowerPoint in this case, because I'm sure most of you probably already have this as a part of your Microsoft Office suite, and PowerPoint is actually really kind of okay for doing this type of workflow because all we really need to do is be able to bring it in, crop, match some colors, maybe make a few slight adjustments, maybe add some transparent overlays to it, and yeah, really fine-tune this this material. And PowerPoint really fits the purpose for those basic tasks. Of course, you could probably get a little better quality out of a tool, say like Illustrator or Photoshop, but in this case we'll use PowerPoint because it does the job. So okay, let's grab that image and we're going to drop it into PowerPoint here, and I'll just close down some of these and let's set up this little rig here. So one of the first things I like doing is I like just taking a shape here, in this case a rectangle, and let's just draw kind of a little bit of a rig to work with. And what I mean by a rig is it's just like a kind of a grouping of shapes that we can work with and build up this tile based texture. So in this case I'm just making some squares here. We can do a 2x2 or a 2x3 or a 3x3. Let's just go with a 2x3 at the moment. And one thing I'll do is let's just group these up, and I'm going to turn off no fill. We'll just make it just an outline here. So okay, next step is let's take this image here, and I'm looking at the tiles. I kind of like this one, I like that one, this one, and maybe that one. I think I want to try to avoid having too much difference in the coloration between these because I don't want it to start looking like a tiled pattern where we have a regular pattern of some yellow, some orange. I want it to be a little bit more consistent in the coloration, and so therefore I think I'm going to lean a little bit more towards the orange based tiles. So with this, let's go ahead and we'll just crop down our base image to begin with. So we may use some of these up here. They may be slightly too dark though. So let's just kind of crop this down. I kind of like that one at the bottom. That's very nice and consistent. So there we go. Next step, I'm just going to copy this entire thing, and let's start really zooming in here and cropping to the few that we may want to use. So this one up here to the right is not bad. So let's just crop it down, and we'll zoom in, and we'll just really try to crop this. And I'm trying to get rid of anything that may be somewhat of a bright spot. So we can do some corrections later on, and I'm sure we'll have to, but let's just try to get this close to begin with. So, okay, there's one. We can just drop it into place here. We can scale it up. And what's nice about having this little rig here is we can actually just stretch it when needed to, you know, skew it to match the right shape, because it doesn't really matter if we skew these just a little bit. It's fine. Okay, so we can do another one here. I could either take this, copy it, and uncrop from here, or just recrop it. That's probably fine. Let's get it close, and then I'm going to come in here and make some slight adjustments. Let's try to cut these down just a little more. I want to get rid of that kind of dark line on the edge, and I'm really just trying to hit the middle of these grout lines. So, okay, that's looking better. Let's scale that up. Okay. And we can always take these and just kind of copy them around, and we can rotate them. There's a lot that we can do with them. We can move it over here if we like those. So, okay, let's keep going here. So let's do one more over here. Let's crop it to another tile. Now that I've rotated this, I need to find one that looks good. So how about that one right there? So let's get it close. We can zoom into it. And then we can continue to just kind of make some slight adjustments. When I'm holding down Alt here, it's going to actually allow me to be a little bit more precise in how I want to place this. So, okay. You can either hit escape there to get out, or click outside of the box. Okay, so we are moving right along here. Let's get, so we did that one, and that one. Let's do the one to the, in the middle here. So let's crop to this one right here. I'm seeing that we got definitely some bright spots on this, so we may want to go in and do some quick corrections there. So let's try to get this lined up, at least with our other tiles. So, okay, it's looking pretty good. So we got those. We never got that one at the bottom. So let's try to get that one. So I think it's on the adjacent to this particular. So, and in this case, it's going to be that one right there. Or did we already get that one? Sorry, I'm getting confused on which one is which. Let's just go from this image, and we'll copy, crop, and make sure that we're getting the right one. So we got a little bit of a shadow, a little bit of a dark spot down there. Looks like there's a little black spot there that I may want to get rid of. So maybe that tile's not as good as I thought originally. But let's see what we can do to clean this up. Okay, let's uncrop that top grout line. That's a little too large. And snap it to the top, skew it. And okay, so we are getting close here. This one is definitely a little bright. That one's a little bit darker. If they're being tiled next to each other, they're going to definitely stand out. We can always group this, and I like doing a little bit of a preview here by just grabbing these and just kind of copying them around to see how it looks. That one is definitely bright, so we need to do something about that. But here we got plenty of tools to play with. And one thing that I'm looking at that I also probably want to correct is going to be, I'm going to shrink this down and kind of center this up. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, is going to be some of these hard grout lines like that. So one thing we can do is we can grab all of these here, And we have this option here of softening the edges. So if we just bump this up a little bit, that will actually start working okay for us. We can see that if we pull this off, we now start getting some white lines coming through there. So this would be a good point to actually, let's create a bit of a background here. So I'm going to snap this new rectangle to our grid there. And in fact, now that we've done that, which is the same shape, then we can kind of just move off our grid. And in this case, I'm going to turn off the line and let's make this a solid fill. And what I want to do is I'm trying to just find a good color here. So I select this, we're going to eyedropper and try to get this really close to our grout color so that when we take this, bring it to the front, and then start dragging it over, see how those grout lines are going to start to disappear. And that's what I'm looking for. So we want to just get that matched up. And okay, so that is taking off a little bit of the harshness there, which is great. We can try bumping it up just slightly more. If we start going too much, it's going to really start fading it out. But is that a bad thing? It may not be a terrible thing. I'm going to undo that. Let's go slightly more though. 2, 3 is not that bad in terms of my width here. Let's go 2. I think that's okay. So that's starting to make that fill in the back a little bit more consistent, the coloration there. And we still have a few bright spots that we can take care of, which we can actually add in a few different ways. We can make some adjustments here to the coloration. So one thing we can do actually is we can play with the brightness on this. We have the option here of going in and actually adjusting brightness. So that can be one thing that we can say take this one and bump that up a little bit brighter. Might make it, that just makes it stand out more. We can dull it out. That doesn't look much better. So at this point we can start going through and just really playing with these, and that actually looks quite a bit better now that I'm looking at that. So so there we go. One thing that we might want to do is lighten up that little edge over there. There's definitely some darkness to it. Or maybe we can rotate this and put it more on the internal. Maybe that particular one, we just need to bump that soft edge just a little bit more than the others. So that definitely did some work for us. So, okay, this is not looking bad. I think at this point in time, let's actually go ahead and save this off. So what I did right there is I just to point it out, I did a grouping around everything, and I did a group command. So it's Control G to group that, or Control Shift G will ungroup all these. So let's just group all these up. Next step is let's save this as a picture. Now, I've already kind of gone through this workflow, and here I have a folder in my link library for my textures. So let's just call this a saltillo tile. And these are 12 by 12. So we'll just put that in the texture name, and let's just hit save. Okay. So we can always come back and make adjustments, and I'm sure we probably will when we bring this in. It's not going to look the best that it can the first time around, but we can always come back and make adjustments. So let's go back to ARCHICAD here, and let's do a view of our 3D. And it's time to go in and let's take this brown tile that we had set up and let's just duplicate it. And I'm just going to call this saltillo tile 12 by 12. We'll duplicate, and because we've already saved that texture, we can't browse for it just yet because I forgot one step here. But let's go ahead and refresh our library manager so that we can bring it in. So let's just hit reload and apply. So now we should see that saltillo here in our textures. There it is right there. So okay, now that we've done that, let's go into our texture that we just created, our new saltillo tile. and let's browse and start, and we'll just link it up to that new tile that we created. So there it is, saltillo tile. Let's open it up. Okay, and we need to make sure we keep our original proportions. Let's set this to a 1 by 1, and we'll set this to 3 feet, and 2 feet is our other dimension there. So that's looking okay. For whatever reason, that tile in the corner that I darkened up looks terrible. So we're probably going to need to go back and make an adjustment there. We can see a preview if we go by 2 by 2. And again, I see that dark tile, so I don't like that. But let's see what this looks like overall. So we'll just take all these that we have, assign it off this terribly ugly brown, and let's check out first look of our new tile. So okay, if we zoom in, we can definitely get an idea of what's going on here. So there is something happening. Looks like our border is slightly off there, so we need to make some corrections there. We'll have to see what happened. Overall, it's getting closer to what I want, but certainly it's not exactly what I want. So let's go through and make some adjustments here. There's definitely some things like the repeating of this kind of brush looking feel to it there. The darkness of that one just looks absolutely terrible. We have this blackness to our gap there, which doesn't look good at all. So we got some work to do to clean this up a bit, because this doesn't look nearly as bad right here. We need to see what happened there. So first of all, what was the file format I saved? PNG. So that should have brought it through. But we got all this whiteness going on there. So why did our background not show up? Was it not grouped? Tough to say. One thing I want to check though is I'm going to reset this one back to 0. So we'll brighten that up. We have definitely a bright spot right here. So one thing I'm going to do is let's just create a little bit of a mask for some of these. So I'm going to kind of click through here. We can bring it all the way up. I just want to kind of get rid of some of these bright spots. So we can kind of click around a little bit. We can add a shape as an overlay. Let's turn off the line, because obviously we don't want a line there. And we can just pick up a color. I dropped something that's very close to it. So it's already starting to fade out there. Now we just need to reduce our transparency, and you can see that that's now starting to fade out a bit. We can probably adjust some points on this edge over here to kind of cover up some of this stuff and have not such a straight line. And then last step here is let's do a soften on some of these edges, and notice just how it's definitely kind of blending in, and when we zoom out we can't see much of it there. So that's actually not too bad. We can do the same thing. Let's pick up the settings of this. So set as default. Let's add a little bit of a mask over here. We'll go down up there, and we'll just kind of blotch some of this out. And because this is a different tile, we need to pick up a different color, and let's fade it out once again. So we can kind of go through and just do like a little bit of patchwork like this to make this look and feel a little better. Let's pick this one up, and this tile up here needs some work. So one thing I'll do is I'm just going to click around this entire tile, and we can change our coloration, no problem. So see how it's already a little bit more in line? That's good. We can, from that's what it was before. Obviously we don't want it totally solid, but that gets it much closer. Okay, so one thing I definitely don't like is some of this green shadowy business we got going on there. So I think one thing I might do is I might just take an overlay of this entire thing here, and we can just kind of consistently make this all a little bit more yeah, just consistent in the coloration there. So we can make this more transparent. Like we'll add like a 25% fill on top. And what does that look like before and after? We can't really tell much of a difference there, but it's going to just kind of knock down a lot of what was going wrong with that before. So this one here, this edge is just not quite working for me. That's a little better. Okay, so we're getting close now. Let's drop all these in. And let's regroup all these. So save as a picture. In this case, we can just override this same image. And let's go back now to ARCHICAD. And all we need to do is simply just go to our library manager. And because it's linking to that same image we overrode, we can just reload and apply this. So let's hit OK. And all right, so we can see that that is already starting to look a bit better. We still have, what I'm looking at here is there's some bright spots shining through. One of them in particular is this line right here. So it actually is right here and it's right there because it's the same tile that we just rotated. So let's do a little bit of a fade on that one, which will be, let's ungroup this. We'll pull that one off. And let's do a little bit of work on this edge right here. So we'll click around, make sure that we're right on top of that white line. And we can just go through and kind of layer just a little bit of work in here to get some of these harsh spots out is the goal. So there we are. Let's bring this to the front. Let's check our solid fill. That's not the color we want. Eyedropper to that one right there. Let's tone this down a little bit. We can turn off our soften edge to clean up that edge right there. And so I'm going to bump this over slightly. And okay, that's not looking too bad. It's looking better anyway. Bump all this over. And if I wanted, I could scale it up this way. That's going to drag over there. So let's edit some points. So with a little bit of work here, we can start really dialing this in where it's kind of giving us the look that we want. We can take this one, copy it, rotate it, and just fit it to that edge. So now we're just masking some of the areas that are making this texture look really kind of not very good and cleaning it up. Okay, let's put our overall fill. Let's make sure that it's on top, so bring to front. We're going to match it all the way across. One thing I'm seeing is this bright line right here. Let's cover that up real quick, and then I think we're going to be almost ready to wrap this one up. So let's just create a little sliver. Let's tone this down a little. We can stretch it to the side, and then I'm using my keyboard to bump that over so we can get rid of that harsh line that we have there. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. One thing that's actually really important that we haven't talked about is just making sure that our boundaries here of our images are nice and aligned. So I'm going to group these up, just our images. You can actually see all of our masks there. I missed some. But we just want to make sure that we aren't over the line on any of these. So if we click on these, We got some masks that are bigger than others. We really want that background there, that gray image on the outside to be our boundary at the edge. So I'm just trying to look at these little lines to match it up so that we don't have any slight little slivers that are going to show through. But that's what that background image is for. So like that one right there, that feels like it's a little bit over the edge. So let's go till we see our little crosshairs at that corner. There we go. So we can offset them and then bring them back. And just to be sure, let's send all of these to the back. Send that one to the back. And then we want to send our background to the back. Okay, let's put on our foreground here. And sometimes I find it's just best if you kind of re-stretch the corners to make sure that you're on them. And okay, last step, let's group, save as picture. Let's just overwrite that one, replace it. So it's starting to feel nice and consistent. Let's hope that we get a nice clear result here in ARCHICAD. So all we need to do is just simply refresh our library manager once again. Reload that new texture. Okay, it disappeared for a second, but it's back. And all right, so we are starting, when we're actually down and in the space, it feels much nicer. When you're looking at it in an overview like this, you can kind of pick out some of the different patterns and textures that we have here. But when you're actually in it, it feels pretty decent. So what else could we do to improve this? Well, certainly we can play around and adjust the pattern settings here, so we can try one of these and see if that gets us any additional variation that might work in mixing this up. So that tended to, in this case, create another kind of highlighted dark spot there. So I don't think I like that. Let's go back to here. We could always add another section here to our texture by simply just, we can actually take this entire thing, and once again we can do a little bit of a preview here of what this may look like. But we can take all of this, rotate it around if we wanted. Do that, and we can add a little bit more variation here if we just kind of flip some of these around. This one here, well, let's just leave that. This one, those two are just a little too close, so let's do a flip-flop on that one as well. If we rotate, so we can always scale up how much we're bringing through. In this case, I just want to make sure that our edges are right. I can see a little bit of an issue over here, so let's just bump that one over. Make sure we don't see any of these little snags in the texture. And can we increase that grout line just a little bit there? Okay, so with that, if we group these up, we're now just kind of making a much bigger texture at this point, but we're starting to get more variation in it even still. So let's try this just to see if we can add some of this. What am I doing? Let's go back, right click on here, save as picture, saltillo tile. So now we've definitely expanded the size of it, so we're saving out a lot more, but that's okay. Let's refresh this. It's probably going to shrink it all down actually, but let's refresh. So it made it much smaller, but now we can just scale it up to be the correct size. So we do a 1x1, and we have a 6x4, so 6 feet in that direction, 4 feet in that direction, and let's give that a shot. Okay, that's looking much better actually. So it took those dark spots that we were taking directly through it, and it's starting to kind of spread it out for us. So, okay, I'm really liking that now. That's starting to look much, much better. We won't get into rendering this just yet. There's some additional settings we can do to go through and update that. But for the most part, I feel like this is a much better representation of what it was before, using our brown, which just didn't quite work for us. So yeah, now that we've gone through, we've updated this, we've definitely made some dramatic enhancements, I would say, from the original version that we had there, just by going through and doing some tweaks on it. We could still go in and, like, now that we've kind of created some randomness to this, we can always go in and just like adjust these and see if we get any better. So I don't feel like it really is when we do this, but yeah. So with that, thanks for checking out this video. Definitely took a little bit of time to go through, but I think the extra time of making some of those adjustments definitely paid off here at the end, because when you're looking at this now, it's certainly feeling quite a bit better. So, okay, thanks for watching, and we'll definitely do a follow-up to this, because next step here is actually taking this texture and doing some other things with it, such as rendering, as well as converting this into a 2D fill is another one I want to do. So we'll probably do that here in another much shorter video coming up here very soon. Thanks for watching. Have any questions on this, leave it in the comment section. And if you like this type of content, then definitely subscribe to the ContraBIM YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.